That was, wow, Scott. Okay, I'm gonna go live. You have to vote in the poll. You have to vote.
Okay.
Oh, and we're live. It is Tuesday. I'm so bad at this. Tuesday, September 7th, 5:04 p.m. Eastern Time, 2:04 p.m. where Mike Godwin is, which I think is in California somewhere. And we're not allowed to have fun anymore, but we are allowed to play Where's the Lie with the creator, the namer, the person who came up with.
Progenitor. I think you mean.
I just gave up.
I think you mean. So I tell my daughter that since I'm the father of Godwin's Law, she is the sister of Godwin's Law.
I've been walking around. Oh, that's kind of weird. Yeah, that's weird. True. Yeah, I've been walking around naming things after myself my entire life. And no, it does not seem to have. It does not seem to have taken.
I'm excited for the clonic principle.
Right, the clonic doctrine. I think.
Exactly.
So can I just
it's like
say
the Charming Betsy, but like.
With Charming Betsy, of course, which is a international law case about how to interpret treaties in light of
Niagara Falls.
Yeah. But if you tell me something that you really want to have named after you, I will make it my business, at least to your face, calling it the Kate.
Yeah.
Yeah. So just name something.
Okay. I'll think about it. Yeah. That's a really nice offer. That's a nice thing to do for a friend.
Hey, yeah, I mean, the fact that Genevieve didn't think of doing that, I think is telling, but
I know,
whatever.
Exactly.
I'm not on my A game today, guys.
Yeah. As she approaches 5 days to her due date, I think I can't believe you're still functioning.
Really.
I have no idea what I would do.
Denial is very powerful.
Yeah. Mike, welcome to the show. It's nice to have you on for a whole episode.
It's nice to be had.
Yeah. So, what do you want to start with, do you think? Or, I mean, you can have, the rules of the game. Do we have to go over them?
I think you have to because
you do.
Because I think I've only come in late on other versions of the game, and I stochastically generated what the rules probably were, but maybe you should just state them.
Good use of stochastically. Yes, okay, so the rules are you're not allowed to Google. Oh, well, first I should say what we're doing.
I can Google, surely.
Okay, yeah, but the rules are that Mike tells a story, and we all listen, and people vote in the poll as the story is unfolded, and then at the end of the story, the three panelists each get 3 questions. And then we bring on 2 more people from the audience, or 1 or 2 people from the audience to ask a question of Mike, or 2 questions of Mike. And then we decide if whether or not it is true or a lie, the story that you're telling. And the question has come up of whether or not one false thing will turn the whole thing false. It has to be the central thread of the story is in some way, essentially, however you measure that, essentially, we will measure that if you toe the line, but essentially the story.
Can I just say something? No matter how progressive we are, ultimately we're going to be essentialists. It just, we can be it's all social constructed, it's all pluralism, this and that. But when it all comes down to brass tacks about who won the game.
And then And then I have a quick question that's clarifying. In Mike's responses to our questions, he is allowed to fib, I believe, also.
Yes. You can lie to us in our questions. Good point, Genevieve. And no one is allowed to Google or find, if you are cheating and Googling, you cannot put it in the chat or you ruin the game, and I will ban you faster than you can say due process. So, okay. Mike.
Hi. Just tell me, have I told you about my life as a Shakespearean actor?
No.
Okay. Well, it turns out that I went to the University of Texas, and I never wanted to be an actor. I had acted in high school plays, so it's kind of a lark and stuff. But I remember seeing James Earl Jones play King Lear on PBS back in the 70s, and I thought, that just looks like so much fun performing Shakespeare in the park, and I really hoped someday that I would find some excuse to do that, even though I didn't want to be an actor. And it turned out that at the University of Texas, there was a program called Shakespeare at Wyandotte, where an English professor would take a lot of people who are not actors, students, half men, half women, and they would put on scenes and later plays, whole plays, from scratch. And so we would not just be cast, we would cast one another in roles, or we would all direct each other, we would create the music, we would sew the costumes. I have actually sewn my own costumes from time to time.
This is bullshit. Who would want to do this? This sounds terrible.
Want to do this? There's not a lot to do. This is out halfway between Houston and Austin, out in the countryside, and it was performed in a converted barn.
Aw.
In the German Texas Hill Country.
Wait, you just said it was bullshit, and then you went, aw?
Yeah. I mean, yes. I was mostly joking that his adorable, like, who would want to sew their own Shakespeare costumes? But obviously it is actually very adorable. Yes.
Are we allowed to like talk about this in like as he's narrating it, or does he?
You can be my interlocutors. It'll just mean that fewer clues, but that's your loss, really.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
there can be a little bit of chatter on the line while
gotcha.
but Mike, continue.
Yeah, so Steve says this is kind of like Slings and Arrows. Yeah, no, Slings and Arrows. I have bonded with Slings and Arrows, the Canadian TV show. But in any case, of course, as we all are. But I went and performed. So I performed in summer of '79. I was an undergraduate. I was accepted to the 6-week program. One of the people who was in my class had been there a previous summer, and he was there in '79, and later went on to become ambassador to Zimbabwe. I'm not making this up. This is totally true. And and we know from when Jonathan Rouse says something's true, it obviously is true. So this is totally. So if I say something's true, it must be true.
Wait. Oh, that was a tricky lead. Wait.
Anyway, the ambassador to Zimbabwe. I actually, who just retired, he's a civil servant. He retired.
What are we talking about anymore? What?
Shakespeare. Well, we're talking about Shakespeare. First summer of
I have to say, the Slings and Arrows Canadian TV show.
Yes.
How could you not know about Slings and Arrows? Are you just not paying attention?
What's happening?
All right. Anyway, well, that was '79. '79, I was really just learning how to do it. I memorized a lot of lines of Shakespeare, and I said I have to come back again. So I came back in 1980, and we did King Lear. First time we'd ever done a tragedy, a complete tragedy. I was Albany, who is married to Goneril, and is one of the few survivors at the end of King Lear. And then in summer of '81, I was Leontes in The Winter's Tale. So I actually played a lead in a tragedy that was in which my wife turns into a statue. That was a great story. But that's not really the part of the Shakespeare story that I want to tell you. What I did was I then took a hiatus. I went to Well, I went to graduate school. I did my whole Kate Klonick thing where I go to like 8 different graduate programs.
Hey. That's
and,
not the thing I want to be named after.
So it's the Klonick. It's the Klonick.
No.
The plan. The Klonick plan.
Anyway, I went to graduate school in a couple of different programs and then dropped out and eventually went to law school. And then after I came back to law school, also at the University of Texas, and I was editor of the student newspaper for a year. But then I said, I need to, after doing that and after being in law school, I need to take the summer off. What better thing to do when by this time I was like 31, 32 years old. I'd spent a lot of time out learning the computer industry and so on. But I went back for a 4th summer. This was the summer of 1989, 10 years after I first went. I was a student again, performing Shakespeare, and one of the plays we performed Two Gentlemen of Verona. It was my second time that we had done Two Gentlemen of Verona, and first time I was a pirate, second time I was the Duke. So I was promoted. At least that was the original plan. But it turned out that one of the students who came with us was having problems with the class. He didn't like memorizing his lines. And, we were worried about him because, we had to memorize all these lines of Shakespeare just in order to practice and perform. But this guy wouldn't memorize his lines, or he somehow couldn't make himself do it. And so I was the oldest student in the class, and I felt like I had to counsel him. And he told me his story about how he was all broken up, distracted because he'd broken up with his girlfriend who was maybe pregnant. And so this is a lot of story. I was and saying, this seems like too much story to explain your depression. But I figured it didn't matter whether he was making it up or telling the truth. Because he obviously wanted to leave. And unfortunately, he was Proteus in the Two Gentlemen of Verona. So he was like the lead of Two Gentlemen of Verona. And if we sent him home, we would have to recast that role with someone who could learn a lot of lines in a hurry.
Why would you? Okay, never mind. This can be one of my questions later. Okay, keep going.
So anyway, I was talking to the guy, and the guy had this really, a lot of people from Texas, were not so great with Shakespeare, but he was learning these lines, trying to learn these lines, and couldn't make himself learn the lines. And ultimately, I went and I talked to the professor who was running the program, and I talked to the other students, and I said, I think we have to send him home. And so we did send him home. And then, ultimately, a person who shall not be named was cast to take over the role. And that person learned a lot of lines in a hurry and performed as Proteus in Two Gentlemen of Verona. And you can ask.
But this was the second time you did it.
Yeah, this was the second time.
Okay, guys, just want to check.
All right. So that was in 1989. Eventually, I graduate. And then I go every few years, we go back and we perform these reunion performances at Shakespeare at Winedale, old people running around in costumes that we made.
With Texas accents doing Shakespeare.
Yeah, well, I have a Texas accent, but nobody seemed to have a problem with my accent. So, and then, I guess it was 95 or 96, or one of the people I was there in 89 came up to me in Austin when I was visiting Austin, and he said, that guy you sent home, Owen, you realize that was Owen Wilson.
What the fuck? Really?
Yeah, he said it was Owen Wilson. So Owen Wilson was the guy who couldn't learn his lines, and we sent him home. And then I had totally blocked out the fact that he'd gone through this traumatic experience. And then I had seen Bottle Rocket. I had seen his early movies, and I knew that guy was vaguely familiar, but I knew that nose, You know, was.
I mean, it's kind of unforgettable. Nose,
Yeah.
like.
No, well, and honestly, there's been more of that nose over time if you just watch it progress through the movies. But
I think you're thinking of Pinocchio.
Well, no, he didn't. He might have lied a little bit about the girlfriend. That's true, but I don't think that's what caused the nose thing. Anyway, so the upshot of this is that
I want to Google so hard who Owen Wilson had knocked up, in 1989.
In 1989, I was able to adapt, my own performances to help put the play on. We did 3 plays that summer, and I performed as Proteus, and then the guy I replaced went on to become a famous film star. So that is the story. How Owen Wilson's failure to learn Shakespeare gave me an opportunity to perform another lead role in a Shakespeare play, and somehow it kicked off his immensely successful comic actor film career, most recently in the critically important artistic achievement called the Loki miniseries.
Named after Genevieve.
The god of mischief.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, ask away.
Okay. Did you have to memorize all of the lines?
Yes. I had to memorize all of the lines and had just a few days to do it. I had to do it in about 3 days.
Okay. Genevieve?
What was your favorite line?
The funny thing about that is that I actually remember Valentine's lines more because I kept hearing them.
I'll take that too.
All right. Cease to persuade, loving Proteus. That is the opening line in Two Gentlemen of Verona. Don't look that up, but when you do, it'll be correct.
I don't know. If someone had asked me and I was lying about Shakespeare, I would be like, get thee to a nunnery, no matter what they were asking about. Or what.
Well, it's funny. I memorize. There are different speeches from different years that I remember very well, and some that I don't remember quite so well. I was Romeo at one point. That was fun.
Scott?
Who is the dean of the University of Texas Law School when you were a student there?
Udoff. No.
What?
Mark Udoff.
Okay.
Ha.
Good question, Scott. Okay.
But Kate, we're trained to ask good questions.
I know it is like we're all, attorneys at
Yeah.
law.
No, I actually had a clerkship. I had a clerkship with Charles. I had a summer clerkship scheduled with Charles Allen Wright, who wrote who co-wrote the Federal Practice and Procedure, the great civil procedure hornbook, and also a really good criminal procedure hornbook. And I had to go tell Charlie Wright that I was going to take the summer off. I said, I know you've accepted me to be a clerk, but I'm going to go perform Shakespeare. And Charlie said, oh, he said, you're definitely not going to get a chance to do that as a lawyer. So you should go do that now.
I would have been like,
and
that's nice. See you later, buddy. I've got like 1,000 people waiting to be my clerk.
And then he had me clerk. He had me clerk in the main part of the year. So I clerked the rest of my last year.
Greek chorus, if you would like to question Mike Godwin, please put your name forward in the ask a question thing so we know who to pick from.
Yeah. Okay, so I get another question. But do you want to go first, Genevieve?
I want to think for a second.
I'm thinking, so what part of this, I think that like,
I have one. Have you performed Shakespeare anywhere else in the United States besides Texas?
No, I think I have not. I think I have performed in multiple places in Texas, but not outside of Texas.
Okay.
Wait, was the Udoff question right, Scott?
He has to look
You don't know.
I don't know, except that I do know that Mark Udall was a University of Texas law professor and also then president of the university or chancellor, or whatever it was. So it strikes me as highly likely that Mike did go to law school at that time. Though, while thinking about it, I don't think it goes to the essence of the.
It's a good thing to see if
the
he's wrong about
essentialist
other
analysis
things.
could take you in that direction.
Do you have another question, Scott?
Yeah, I do have another question. I want to know, was William Shakespeare the author of the plays, or was it the Earl of Oxford?
Oh, it was Shakespeare. It was the man from Stratford.
Okay. I mean,
does that sell you on it? Interesting.
I mean, how else would he know?
The Oxfordians are all—they're like the Oxfordians are the anti-vaxxers of Shakespeare archive.
Ooh, ouch!
Really? Is that true? I don't know what that means. What?
The ones who believe that the Earl of Oxford wrote Hamlet and all those things are as deluded and divorced from reality as the anti-vaxxers, and in fact have the same causal consequences in the world in terms of death and suffering.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, although with the Oxfordians, the suffering involves hearing them explain the theory of how the Earl of Oxford wrote.
That's the death and suffering.
Oh my God. Fair enough.
Fair. Go ahead.
Oh man. Okay, so we have Mike Larky's coming on, but I want to know, like, where did you live? Did all of the actors like live in the same spot? Like,
great question.
in like a big boarding house? Like, where did they put you up somewhere? How'd you get paid? Like, how'd you eat food? Like, what was the whole arrangement?
Oh, it's a really great question. So if you were accepted in the program, you had to pay an initial fee because you were registering for a course and you got course credit. So like a student, you were still a student and you got course credit. So if you look at my law school transcript, you see that there's this Shakespeare course in the middle of my law school transcript. But it's paid for by donors. It's a nonprofit, and all the food was paid for by the donors, who are typically charitable givers, mostly based in Texas. It was part of the network built up by the professor who originated the program.
Mike Larky, welcome to the show.
Hi.
Please cast your withering questions upon Mike Godwin.
So you said you saw Bottle Rocket. How much of the rest of Owen Wilson's work have you seen?
I've seen a ton of it. I mean, I've seen Wedding Crashers. I've seen, I think he was in, what was that space movie? They're stopping wasn't he in the, wouldn't he stop an asteroid from hitting the Earth or something? I don't know.
Absolutely not. I don't think
so. What is the latest thing that you've seen him in?
Loki.
Did you happen to watch any Loki behind the scenes? There's like a behind the scenes documentary that goes along with it.
Yes.
You did happen to see that?
Yes.
In that.
Oh, so wait, this is your last question. Make your last question.
Tom Hiddleston asked Owen Wilson if he had ever performed Shakespeare.
And what was his answer?
His answer was that it was nice that Hiddleston thought it was possible that he might have performed Shakespeare.
And in that documentary, he said that he's never done any Shakespeare.
Hold on. Mike, hold on. We can't, you have 3 questions and you burned them all already. But I think we've got like the gist of it. And we all have one more question. Dun, dun, dun. Okay. Yeah. I don't know. Genevieve, you go.
Yeah, it was Armageddon. I couldn't remember the movie was Armageddon. Thank you, Drew.
Okay.
I don't remember that.
It's not that great of a movie.
No, I remember Armageddon. I just don't remember him in it. Yeah. I guess I was too distracted by Ben Affleck.
I can't believe you brought that Armageddon up, because I think that the woman who gets killed at the beginning was the person whose husband I got into a big fight with on Twitter.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
I remember that. Like,
that's
the moment where you like outdid yourself with the shit posting.
Really, that was the craziest I'd ever got when Acevedo, that guy from Band of Brothers, but it was because I insulted the woman who was in Armageddon, the first one to die in Armageddon. So I just wanted to point that out, if that helps.
Assuming your story is true, were you surprised by Owen Wilson's capacity for comedic acting, considering the circumstances that you met him under?
It's weird. I just didn't even connect the guy I saw in the movies with the guy that I had kind of heard this bullshit story about the pregnant girlfriend from back in 1989. So I like, I just didn't even connect it. And then 5 years later, when another person who was in that class mentioned him, he said, "You realize Owen was Owen Wilson?" I said, "Oh, yeah, of course he was." So I think that what probably happened with Owen was that he was used to being kind of improvisational in a lot of performance stuff that he did. And Shakespeare, you got to learn the lines. I mean, you can be improvisational, but you still got to learn the material.
Okay.
Can I ask my question? Who said "out damn spot"?
I'm pretty sure that's a Macbeth reference.
Yeah, but who?
Yeah, but yes, exactly. Thank you, Kate, for backing me up.
I'm pretty sure. I think it might be Lady Macbeth.
Yeah, not bad.
I get you can't fault you at all for that answer.
Okay. Let's see here.
Well, you don't get to look stuff up, Kate. What is this?
Oh, I was just gonna pull some Shakespeare off the thing and see if you could tell me where it was from, but fine.
Oh, I can definitely Shakespeare.
No.
Can you recognize this? Now my co-mates and brothers in exile, hath not old custom made this life more sweet than that of painted pomp? Are not these woods more free from peril than the envious court? Here feel we not the penalty of Adam, the season's difference as the icy fang and churlish chiding of the winter's wind, which as it bites and blows upon my body, even till I shrink with cold, I smile and say, this is no flattery, these are counsels that fear me, persuade me what I am. Sweet are the uses of adversity, which like the toad, ugly and venomous, would have yet a precious jewel in his head, and this our life, exempt from public haunt, finds tongues in trees, books and brooks, sermons and stones, and good in everything.
Waiting for Godot.
So yeah, I thought it was White Lotus. I thought it was White Lotus.
It's not Midsummer, is it? No.
That is from As You Like It, and it is Duke Senior. There are two Dukes in As You Like It, the bad one and the good one, and he's the good one.
Okay, so my question is, when did you work for the Apple Store?
I worked for the Apple Store after I dropped out of graduate school in 83. There
was an Apple Store then?
Apple, they had, the Mac was introduced in January of 84. So I dropped out in 83, worked for a different computer store and that was selling PCs. And then I shifted to an Apple store when the Mac came out. And I had an Apple II myself. But my first wife had a Mac, bought a Mac from me.
Okay, I think we have to vote. Final.
You have time. I mean, you have a lot of time here.
No, yeah, but we have conversation after the truth is revealed. So I can't vote in the poll, but people should go and change their votes. And then What are you thinking, Scott? Truth or lie?
I have to say, I am just so, I mean, as you know, my job is pure reason. And I am really flummoxed here because on the one hand, the story you tell is absurd. On the other hand, like nobody's that good at lying. So I'm just, it's really.
I want to critique your pure reason, but I can't.
Jesus.
Okay. Yeah. He's. I think he's telling the truth. I think he's a Shakespearean actor because it did just. I don't know. Either that or I'm definitely not going into business with you.
Okay, Genevieve.
I'm going to say it's true.
No, I'm going to say that it's false. If the essential part of the story, I think that you did Shakespeare for 4 summers, but I don't think that Owen Wilson ever did it with you or overlapped with you in his doing it. I don't think that he was the thing. I think that's a lie. And just so before you tell us, I'm going to say that's pretty split, Mike. It's like 52. It's like 28. Yeah, it's like 50-50. People don't know. Wait, stop. Oh, wait, yes. Interesting. Wait. Okay. What?
Oh, wait. Is Mike Godwin lying? Which one did I say? I
Oh my God. The man of reason, everyone.
Well, I'm just going to say, Scott,
you said truth.
Your pure reason is impractical.
Wait, so I said he was not lying.
You said he was not lying, and if
yeah, I voted yes because obviously yes because I think it's true. But the question was, is Mike Godwin lying? So I would switch it to no. He is not lying.
Okay. Well, I don't think it's 30 votes for yes, 30 votes for no. Mike, what is it?
There is a lie in the story that I told, and it is a central lie.
Ooh. You never went to law school.
It's so true. It's true.
What is it?
So Owen Wilson was actually a student in the same class as me in 1989.
Ooh.
And he really did get sent home because he couldn't make himself learn his lines. And I did not replace him.
Oh. Fair.
But well, I don't know.
If I had replaced him, I think I would have had a movie career.
No.
Wait a second. But that's like a purely like accidental thing. The fact that you like intersected with Owen Wilson doing Shakespeare, I think really counts as being like the essence of the story.
I kind of agree. I kind of agree with Scott.
So does that mean we have a second poll question to determine whether the essential element of the story is true or false?
Yes. I think
right.
Of course. No, of course. If you have to do a poll on a question of essentialism, what kind of essentialism is it really?
It's a poll essentialism, obviously.
Listen.
That's just not essentialism, to me.
No, well, it's poll essentialism, which I just made up.
Well, we're empirical philosophers here, Mike. So just deal with it.
Thank you, Kate. But so that's the thing. In first, we were like, now we're acting as a court, kind of like before we were a jury.
Mm-hmm.
Like assessing truth and falsity. Now we're trying. That was question of fact. Now we're at question of law. Whether this goes to.
No, I think the question is a mixed question of fact and law, which is my
They're
favorite.
all mixed questions of fact and law.
At this particular point, it's 2021, guys. As jurists, we can do whatever we want.
Right.
Well,
The new,
remember,
that's right.
Certainly, you know, if you're a Texas legislature, you can kind of.
Oh yeah.
I just want to say that, Genevieve, I hope you know that it's always you, as even before 2021, you could, if the court could always do whatever it wanted. So there's like,
Marbury versus Madison. I'm gonna do what I like.
exactly.
Well,
Okay,
the
yeah.
trick in Marbury is that the court does not do. The court's action is inaction. That's why it works.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Much like the court's overruling of Roe versus Wade.
Sort of.
Also in Texas.
Lots of negative capability.
Yeah.
I have a
Right,
follow-up.
yeah, right. You are something else.
I have a good follow-up story. A quick addendum. When I was in, and you can tell me, you can guess whether this is truth or a lie. When I was like 27, I went to a conference in Italy, and John came with me, and he wanted to go home like a little bit earlier. He had to go back to work, and I wanted to stay and hang out in Rome and then go and like visit France afterwards and see some friends. So I stayed, and I dropped him off at the train station. I went back to like where our hostel was, or like apartment, and I went around the corner to this really great place that people had told me you could get a sandwich in. And I sat down at the bar to have a sandwich, and I turned to my left, and I was sitting next to Owen Wilson.
Is that true?
I'm going to say true.
Oh,
No, it's true. It's like obviously a true story. Like, why would I
he
just, like,
shows up. I mean, there's the thing is, Owen Wilson shows up at various places and then
he's
leaves.
like Kevin Bacon, apparently, with you and me, Mike.
I know. Well, the other thing is, Kate, did I even mention the cognitive psych graduate school? No, maybe I did.
No, you didn't. I didn't know that, Mike. That's funny.
Yeah, I think I did mention the reaction time paradigm at one point.
yeah.
Don't you have an Owen Wilson story, Scott?
And
well,
if not, why not?
I don't have an Owen Wilson story, but I was in an elevator with Kevin Bacon.
Wait, really?
Yeah, he literally in an elevator. He, my wife, Kevin Bacon, and his dog. So I have like zero. Well, no, I have 1 degree separation, and I have an Erdos number. Do you know about Erdos numbers?
No.
Of course. Doesn't everyone?
No, I don't.
Okay, so there was a
citation.
Yeah, there was a very famous Hungarian mathematician named Paul Erdos, he was very prolific and he worked with many people. And you had your Erdos number, which was the number of people you were separated, people who you co-authored with, who then co-authored with people who co-authored with people who co-authored with Erdos. So I have a Erdos number of 3.
Got it.
I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Is that a surprisingly low number?
Well, actually, an Erdos number of 2.
Right.
Yes, I have an Erdos number of 2, and that's a low number.
Okay.
And that's the true story, because like that would be way too boring to lie about.
Well, Mike, what's going on with you these days? How are you? How's the life of internet lawyering?
Well, it's funny. I actually am doing more content moderation issues than ever before, because I work for TikTok, and it's really, I can't tell you anything about it except that it's fun and super interesting.
Can I ask a general question, Mike? Like, how are you enjoying it? And is it surprising to you the issues that you're getting faced with?
So I am enjoying it, and the issues in many ways don't surprise me because they are just new iterations of long-standing user-generated content platforms. They're all, we've been writing about this stuff for, at least I've been writing about it for 30 years. So it's, there are some things that are new under the sun. For example, I'm now training to do the Elena Cruz shuffle for my next TikTok.
I can't hear you. Oh, you mean, yeah, for some reason your mic's coming in and out, Mike.
Sorry, I'm gonna learn a shuffle. I'm gonna do a shuffle in a TikTok video.
Are we allowed to believe what he's saying?
I mean, I don't, but you can go ahead and do whatever, your God tells you, Scott.
When you do the shuffle, Mike, you have to do it while quoting Shakespeare. Raise the level of shuffle.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, you should do some Shakespeare. That'd be fun. So hold on. Tell me about what's going on with TikTok, because that's actually, if you can, I'm actually kind of interested. A couple of years ago when they were starting out and people were using it for political, where are you going? Oh, there you are.
Remember, I'm actually sitting on the floor of our empty living room, so I have to reposition myself.
TikTok had a whole kind of we just want to be fun videos. We don't want to be political speech. And I was like, good luck with that. And I think that was in that was early, the first couple of months they were available in the US. I'm sure that they have gotten a little bit more sophisticated since then.
There's a lot of political speech that happens at TikTok.
Yes, I know. Yes, yeah.
And
it was a notion of people who had never contemplated really content moderation, it was very new that was at the platform.
I think they were, a lot of platforms, they appear and then people figure out how to use them. And as William Gibson says, the street finds its own uses for things.
Yeah.
And so people find their own uses for TikTok. I know that we recently expanded TikTok videos to 3 minutes, which to me, I could write a novel, I think, in that long of a TikTok. You can do a lot with a 3-minute TikTok. And then, but there's a lot of, we recognize that political speech is going to happen and we support it, generally speaking.
There was that.
Also, Taylor Swift. By the way, Taylor Swift now on TikTok, ahead of In Lieu of Fun. I'm just going to point that out. We have Taylor Swift before you did.
That is very true.
It's true, but we weren't trying.
Oh, yes, you were.
She's been invited for many, many mystery guest Sundays.
That was all. That was all marketing. It was never real. We never really tried. But I like that. I'm not quite sure what the rules are of this part. I feel like I would like to know what actually is true when we ask Mike things. But if he could lie now, it kind of.
I feel like now's the truth-telling part.
Yeah, right. Now is the truth-telling part. So it would be great to know, do you really work for TikTok?
Yes, he does.
Okay. I just don't. Everything's been so destabilized for me.
Well, to quote Taylor Swift, I stay out too late. I got nothing in my brain. At least that's what people say.
That's what people say.
Okay. I don't exactly think that was responsive. But did you see in the New York Times there was a story about how Russia has co-opted TikTok? No, it was in terms of Syria. There was was it the Times that now disinformation about Syrian genocides and chemical attacks are now moving on to TikTok. Am I just imagining this? No,
No, this is interesting. Yeah, I hadn't.
It's a real thing. I mean, and it was actually quite chilling to see the videos and because like there's one thing to like, I mean, to lie about the gassing of innocent civilians is, I mean, you know, that's pretty ghastly.
Yeah. There's I mean, this is kind of one of the reasons that it was always kind of a specious aim, at least if they were telling people this, that they were going to not be political, because obviously, yes, as William Gibson says, like, your people will use it however you want. But Mike, you look like you're about to say something. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to comment on this, but then I recognize that in my role I really can't. So I guess I've just got a blank space, baby. So I'll just write your name.
It's also non-responsive. Strike is non-responsive.
Yeah,
I am loving the Taylor quotes though.
I'm very, very impressed, Mike.
Well, look, you know, once you learn a lot of Shakespeare, Taylor Swift, you can pick it up pretty fast.
Yeah. Well, I was really impressed with I want to know, did Larky get it right in asking you? Did he kind of point to what made you think of
Larky, I think, identified what he thought was the source of my prevarication, which was this making of video that accompanied the Loki miniseries. And I do dimly recall that and it's been reported in a bunch of places that Hiddleston, and Hiddleston has performed a ton of Shakespeare, and Owen Wilson, as we know, has not. So there's some dialogue about that. But Owen Wilson says that if Owen Wilson says, and I don't remember this precisely, that he never performed Shakespeare, that's technically correct. He did not perform Shakespeare because we sent him home before he
Yeah. I mean, I've never really understood, just as an aside, how people memorize lines. Like,
oh, it's hard. And by the way, it gets harder as you get older. I have found, or it got harder for me as I got older. But the way I learned lines in a hurry was writing them down again and again. So actually, the process of writing on paper sticks them in my brain.
That's how I would write out. So I was insane about being prepared for giving talks at faculties. So not only I would write out questions and answers, and I would write them out so that I had them memorized. I was so nervous.
When I was doing my job talk, it was like before I'd had a ton of before I'd done 500 hours of public speaking, live on the internet.
I mooted you.
I know, and I was so green. I was so green, but I taped mine. I read the entire thing and I taped it and I played it over and over and over, over and again. So by the time I actually had to go give job talks, I had it completely memorized.
So what I have done, and I've done a lot of, I've given a lot of talks. On almost all occasions, I would over prepare my notes for the talks. And then I would get up and not look at my notes, but they were internalized, but it wasn't memorized in the sense of like a prepared speech where I had memorized, like Shakespeare. It was that I knew the story I was telling, and it was all kind of there in my brain, and I might tell it in a different order from the one I'd written it down. And I would think of jokes to tell in the middle of telling the story. And so there's an improvisational component in almost all of my public talks.
I had a great is it Duke Ellington or Ella Fitzgerald or something? Is that like my guitar teacher said is that the best improvisation is a memorization.
Oh, I mean, that's like kind of, I mean, like I totally, like you get close, like you get the gist of it, but you don't like do it like exactly. I think that that's right. I mean, I
Well,
don't
how
know.
many times have you been? Think of all the times you've been in a conference when some clown gets up and reads an article, and it is the most miserable experience for the people in the audience. It's unbearable.
Yeah, well, that's a standard thing in philosophy when I was a grad student.
Oh, really? Is that what they do?
All they did, it was like nobody did anything but this. You would sit there for the first hour and the person would read the article to you. And then the second hour, you would ask questions about it. And at various places like the University of Michigan, in order to empower the grad students, they were required to, for the first 20 minutes, to ask the first questions. So these poor grad students would be forced to, because you're not given the paper ahead of time. You're like the person just reading a complex philosophical thing to you, and then you're required to fill up 20 minutes of questions.
You're joking, and you're supposed to have like you're supposed to have just like absorbed it.
Yeah, and you know how like philosophy is like 1A, 1A prime, 1A double prime, 1A prime sub one, and then you like as a grad student you would be like so nervous.
Well, it reminds me of this. You know, it reminds me of the philosophy of language lecture, where the philosopher was doing a speech, and he said, and he's finding that he pronounces that while in some natural languages like English, double negative is a positive, and other natural languages like French, a double negative is a negative, but there's no natural language in which double positive is a negative. And the person in the audience says, yeah,
right. That's Sidney Morgenbesser, who is Sidney Morgenbesser was the yeah guy, and the philosopher was supposed to be J.L. Austin, and that's one of the great all-time lines of. I mean, it doesn't get better than that.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Yeah, but Morgenbesser would be one of those guys. I mean, that's the thing about like you kind of don't appreciate like different disciplines have different ways of transmitting knowledge. And in philosophy, it was extremely oral. So everything would be about listening to the paper and then having conversation, and it really prized oral uptake. So for example, I can't read books. I can only, I can read books, but I rarely read books. I listen to books. I listen to books at 3 times speed because that's the way I was.
Isn't the etymology of pedagogy just walking around talking?
Yeah, that's right. What's the not.
That's distinct from the entomology of pedagogy, which is walking around talking with bugs.
Yeah.
But that is the peripatetics. The peripatetics were the students of Aristotle, because not because they were peripathetic, because they were peripatetic. They would walk around with Aristotle talking.
Roll around. I think it's
We should do a philosophy, like, I don't know. I think that Paula sent me a note a couple of weeks ago asking Scott if you could kind of do an international law thing, and if we could do it. And I was thinking actually Ona should come on back again, and we should do that. I mean, like, so we should do something like that. But I was thinking as you were talking that it would also be really fun to bring back someone trained in classic philosophy, like in philosophy. I mean, different than Josh, although Josh is, but like Josh, I'm speaking of Josh, no, but like, yeah, it would just be fun to kind of like break up the disciplines, because like international law is not like law, and like philosophy is not like law, but like they're adjacent. And so it would be really fun to kind of move us in that direction. I feel like we get a lot of national security and like con law.
I would love that. So, for example, I have, Sam Moyne, my colleague, just came out with a new book, which was reviewed in the New Yorker, called Humane. And about the laws of war. Yeah, and it's it's his attempt to reconstruct how we got to the forever wars.
And he's been doing a great podcast with David,
right? Exactly. So he was supposed to come on tomorrow, but it turns out that we couldn't do it. But next week he'll come on. So that's international law stuff, and
I just jump in and say that J.L. Austin did have a sense of humor, because Austin named a book Sense and Sensibilia.
Yeah, that's right.
So Jane Austen had written Sense and Sensibility, so J. Austen wrote Sense and Sensibility.
Yeah, so he was like an Austen, Jane Austen, like
a file.
Stan. He was right. Yeah, right, exactly. And so that was a big thing. But he had like one of the best titles for any book ever, which was How to Do Things with Words. And that's where the whole speech act theory stuff started, though he was...
Yeah, he gave us John Searle. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, I know.
I'm waiting for Pride and Precedent.
Oh! Very nice.
That's nice.
Very nice.
That's a good one to go out on.
That'll work.
I think, okay, so I think we're going to wrap. It is 6:00. Mike Godwin, you're a great American, a better Texan, a fantastic truth teller, shitty liar, and welcome. You're welcome back anytime. It was fun to hang out with you.
Thanks for having me.
We will be back tomorrow, 23 hours from now, with Dominic Parker, who just wrote a book called The Power of Us with Jay Van Bavel, who's going to be talking about kind of the ways in which human identification inform basically our us at every level, from like the molecular to our like societal organization. And that will be 22 hours and 59 minutes from now. And until then, Mike.
Ooh.
No, you got to do the line, Mike. Oh, is that just going to be it?
No, we don't have fun anymore. You're asking me, we don't have fun anymore. But we do find new uses for our old philosophy readings in current video casts and many modern jokes.
Very
fantastic. Good. Thank you so much.